So let's talk about array prototype find. Array.find is a newer method that exists on our array prototype, and it was more recently introduced in ECMAScript 2015, otherwise known as ES6. Despite being new, it is, however, supported in all modern browsers, which gives us a great use case to use it. Array.find searches our array and returns us the first matching element, or it will return undefined if it cannot find one. Find's return value is dynamic, and this means that it could be of any JavaScript type. We could be finding a string, we could be finding a number, an object, or an array. You can think of find as, I just want to go and find a particular element in my array. Now, our array elements are objects, so we would have to go and find one of those objects pragmatically. Now, before we do get going, I want to mention that array.find is in fact quite similar to array filter in the way that we could filter out anything that we don't want. By simply saying, I want to find perhaps this particular item, we would then exclude both of these items by default. And the similar behavior is in array filter, where we could say perhaps, I want to filter out anything that perhaps is fries, which then leaves us with these two items. The main difference between find and filter is filter will allow us to return multiple values, whereas array.find will only give us one value after it's found it. It will not find subsequent values if they are perhaps even duplicates. So underneath of our constant, we'll have a quick exploration of the syntax. So here we could say our items, we could use .find. Now array.find is very similar to our other array prototype methods. We have a predicate function. This can be just simply thought as of a callback, which also types the this keyword, which we don't really need to know about for using find. We also have the first argument of value. We have the second argument giving us the index, and we also have this object, as they've called it here. I like to just simply call it the array, because you can see here that here is our data structure, and then we've got this bracket syntax, which indicates that it is an array of these objects, which it is technically still an object because an array is an object. We then have a return value, which is then given to us back. We can optionally change the this arguments as well. So looking at array.find, we can access the value, we can access the index, we can also access that object. I'm just going to call it the array here because it's our array. We can then create some logic inside of here to go and find the particular item. So it's up to us at this point to go and grab that find item. We could optionally change the this argument, and our return value will then contain the found item in our array. It's just going to be one of these three objects. So that's the syntax. We could go ahead and use that return value anywhere we like. So for now, we're going to create a new array because I want to demonstrate a very simple way of using array.find. Here we're just going to create some letters, and we're going to say, go and find me if x equals an A. So here I'm obviously creating a new string inside of here, which is based off of our string array. But if array.find matches this expression, it will then result in true. It's found our first item. It will then short circuit the loop. It's not going to find and return us more than one value. So it makes sense for us to completely short circuit at this point, and we just break out of the loop and get given our item A from the array. So here we're going to say const found equals, and then underneath we can log out our find variable, and you can see that in the console we have this letter of A. So we've gone and found it successfully at this point. And just to demonstrate, if we were to search for E as an example, we then get undefined. So that means that we need to be smart, we need to think ahead, we need to think about errors. We're going to need to wrap things that we use find in an if statement, because it's going to result in false if it cannot find it. Now, as array.find can return us any particular type, it does have very flexible use cases. You could return booleans, you could return strings, objects, arrays to any degree, but a common use case would be finding a particular object, perhaps, inside of an array by supplying perhaps an ID to look up that object with. We could then, for example, use the return value to perhaps update that particular object inside of here, or we could perhaps send it to the server or do something else. So with that in mind, let's go and create a nice find example by using our data structure. What we're actually going to do is look for our fries, and we're going to do exactly what I just said and loop through our array of objects to go and find a particular object. So here we can say items.find. We then get given the item, and we can check whether the item's ID simply equals our string with our nice emoji inside. We can then say const found equals the items.find, and we can replace our console log and check it out in the console. So here you can see that we now have our object. It's not tied to its array. We're just getting a nice copy of that object back as it perfectly existed inside our array here. As I mentioned, we might want to wrap it in an if statement. So we could say if found, then we could move our console log inside. What we could do inside our console log, we could take our new found item. We could say found.name. We can add a space, and we could also log out the price. We could say found.price divided by 100 just to convert it to a decimal, because at the moment they are in cents. And then we're going to call our toFixed and pass in the number 2. When we save this out, we can then see our item in the console has been nicely logged out, which is something we might want to then do or display for the particular user. Of course, if we were to go and substitute our ID for another one, our console would then update with the price and the name respectively. So even though Array.find is a simple, nice and concise one-liner, we would typically have to use a more verbose approach if we were dealing with an older way of using find. So for example, what I'm going to do now is show you how to use Array.find without actually using array.prototype.find. So here's how we could think about Array.find before the Array.find method existed. Now I'm going to create our found variable. By default, this is actually going to be undefined. So when we earlier saw these undefined values, because we're not assigning a value to our let statement at runtime, it will be undefined. So that means that inside our loop, if we then begin to find our particular item, we can then go ahead and assign it to the variable. So let's go and grab that individual item based off of the index that we're then iterating over. We can then say if the item.id equals those fries that we like, then what we can simply do is assign our found variable to our item. And then once we finish the loop, found will then contain the correct reference. Now, is our code finished? No, it's not yet. We need to add a break statement, remember, because we don't want to keep overriding our find items. It might be that we have multiple IDs that have the same icon that represents them, or multiple cases inside of a find. So as soon as Array.find locates the first item in the array, it's going to give it to you back and break the loop internally in Array.find. I really like to demonstrate these approaches to you because it gives us some more flexibility when thinking about our code and helps us understand these APIs such as Array.find. And I also hope you like these declarative versus imperative comparisons to help us achieve the same result with a different functional programming style.